First story. My entitled daughter's rich dad buys her expensive food and gives her money. I demand her to share it with my sons. She refuses, so I allow my sons to grab her down and take her belongings. She sulks, so I punish her. She humiliated me for cheating on her father and abandoned me. Now I'm regretting my actions. So this is complicated and messy, and I already know I'm not perfect here. But I'm really looking for outside judgment because it's gotten bad. I 36F have 4 kids, 3 boys 9, 7, and 4 with my husband of 9 years and a 15-year-old daughter from my previous marriage. I'll say this up front because it's relevant. That marriage ended because of my infidelity, and my ex-husband 38M got full custody of our daughter. I was granted Saturdays every other week. That's it. And it's been that way for the last 10 years. Despite that, I'll admit that my ex has been far more generous than necessary. He's extremely financially well off. He makes high 6 figures, if not more, and I've never heard him speak badly of me to our daughter. He agreed that when she visits, he covers everything for her: food, clothes, entertainment, whatever. I don't provide anything financially for her when she's with me, which she never complained about. This was also practical because my current husband and I are struggling financially. We live paycheck to paycheck, and even the $150 a month I pay in court-ordered child support is difficult for us sometimes. So, the setup was, every other Saturday, my ex would drop off our daughter in the late morning after getting her breakfast. She'd arrive with name-brand snacks, bottled drinks, and sometimes a lunch bag or Uber Eats order. Then in the evening, he'd pick her up and take her out to dinner. This meant I didn't have to feed her or budget for her food, which helped a lot because feeding 3 boys already stretches us thin. This arrangement worked, at first. But as my boys got older, they started noticing how differently their sister was treated. She'd sit down with her McDonald's or Chick-fil-A while they were eating PB&Js or instant noodles. She had Takis, Gushers, and flavored sparkling water. Meanwhile, they had knockoff chips and tap water. At first, they didn't say anything. But about 6 months ago, the 9-year-old started making comments, and the 7-year-old picked up on it quickly. They began asking why she got good stuff, and they didn't. I tried to explain that she brings her own food, but that didn't help. They didn't understand, or maybe they did, and it just made them angrier. 2 visits ago, my oldest son had a full-blown meltdown. He screamed at me, asking why his sister gets restaurant food and snacks while we eat poor people food. It stung. We're doing our best, but yeah, we can't afford fast food for 4 kids every weekend. That same night, I texted my ex and asked if, going forward, maybe he could send a little extra enough to let our daughter share some snacks with her brothers. Or maybe send a little money so she could order food for everyone instead of just herself. I told him the boys were starting to resent her, and this might prevent tension. His reply shocked me. He said, and I quote, "You asked for this setup. Under no circumstance am I going to feed your brats." It was harsh, especially coming from him. He's usually super calm and polite, but that response felt like a gut punch. I didn't reply after that. I figured it wasn't worth a fight. Then came the last visit. This was 3 Saturdays ago. I was still hurt by his response, but I didn't want the boys to feel worse. So when my daughter walked in holding a McDonald's bag and her usual Target sack full of snacks, I asked her calmly to put the food on the table and share it with her brothers. She looked confused, then told me, "This is mine. Dad gave it to me." I said I knew, but her brothers were feeling left out, and it would be nice if she shared this once. She clearly didn't like it, but she handed over her snacks, and I passed them out among the boys. Then came lunch. She ordered Uber Eats for herself. She usually does this from her dad's card, some kind of ramen and bubble tea, and when it arrived, I told her she had to split it up. She fought me on it, but I insisted. She ended up handing over half to her brothers and sulking in her room. Well, the following visit last Saturday, she flat out refused to come in the house. She stayed in her dad's car outside for 20 minutes. I had to go out and talk to her through the window. She said she didn't want to come if she was going to be forced to give away everything she brings. I told her she needed to come in and spend time with her siblings. She eventually caved, but she was already in a mood when she walked in. This time, she held her bag of snacks close to her chest and wouldn't put it down. I honestly didn't think much of it. The boys started getting rowdy, asking what she brought. Then, and I admit, I froze. The 2 older boys grabbed her arms and tried to take the bag away from her. She yelled at them to stop, but they kept tugging. They weren't hurting her. It honestly looked more like kids playing than anything else, and they were laughing, not being aggressive. I told them to cut it out, but I also said, "Come on, let her share a little. That's part of being family." She was fuming. But again, she opened the bag and let me pass the snacks out. She looked like she wanted to cry. I figured it was just hormones or being a moody teen. Then at lunch, when she ordered Chipotle through her dad's card, I made her split it up again. That's when it finally boiled over. She stood up and yelled at me in front of the boys and my husband, saying, "This isn't about snacks. You don't do anything for me. You never have. You cheated on Dad, and I was the one who got punished for it. I come here because the court says I have to, and now you want to take away the only thing that makes this place tolerable." She went on, I'm paraphrasing, because it was a blur, saying things like I just want to play mom without doing any of the work, that I only act like I care when it makes me look good, and that she hates coming here. She called me a cheater and a hypocrite, and then stormed off to call her dad. He came and picked her up 20 minutes later. She didn't say a word to me before getting in the car. I was humiliated, completely blindsided. My husband looked at me like I'd kicked a puppy. The boys were dead silent. My husband didn't say anything until after my ex's car pulled away. Then he asked, "What did you think was going to happen?" I told him I couldn't keep letting the boys feel inferior. He said this wasn't about snacks, it was about me trying to smooth over consequences from mistakes I made a decade ago. For context that Reddit usually asks for, this wasn't the first time my daughter showed resentment. There's been tension for years, but she usually kept it contained. Little comments here and there asking why the house felt chaotic, why the boys always needed something, why I talked to her like she's one of the little kids, stuff like that. But she'd never blown up like this, and she'd never spoken to me directly about feeling punished for the divorce. I genuinely didn't know she thought spending Saturdays with us was some kind of sentence. I also didn't realize how long the resentment had been building between her and the boys. They used to adore her when she was younger. She'd bring candy to share, she'd play Minecraft with them, and she'd help me fold laundry. And then somewhere around age 12, she stopped trying. She'd sit on her phone through entire visits. She'd ask if she could stay in the car instead of coming inside. She'd spend half the day FaceTiming friends. My boys started copying her attitude, calling her boring or snobby, and she became even more withdrawn. I didn't push it because I figured teenagers go through phases. I thought she was just adjusting to growing up. After she left, the boys asked why she hated them. I told them she didn't, that she was just upset. But honestly, I don't know how much of that is true anymore. Even earlier that day, before the blow-up, she barely spoke to them. She gave one-word answers, kept her distance, and kept her backpack physically between herself and them. Looking back, she was on edge from the moment she walked in. Later that evening, my ex texted me. It was the second time in 10 years he's ever been openly angry. He said, "Do not force her to share food again. You do not get to dictate how she uses what I give her. If the boys have a problem with it, that is your responsibility to solve, not hers. And if she tells me she doesn't feel safe or respected in your home, we will revisit visitation. I don't want to lose what little time I do have with her. It might only be every other Saturday, but it matters." I tried calling him, but he didn't answer. I texted him back, saying he was overreacting and that I never made her unsafe. He replied once more, "You let your sons physically restrain her for snacks." Then nothing after that. My husband took his side immediately. He said the moment the boys grabbed her arms, I should have shut it down hard and told them absolutely not. I told him it looked like harmless roughhousing, but I'm aware that may have been me downplaying it, so I didn't have to admit I let it escalate. He asked me, "If someone did that to one of our boys, would you call it harmless?" I didn't answer. The following day, all 3 boys kept asking why their sister gets special treatment from her dad. They asked why she gets better food, better clothes, and better everything. I didn't have a good answer. I told them it's because her dad has more money, and they immediately asked why he doesn't help them too. Again, no good answer. They said it wasn't fair, and honestly, it isn't. What I didn't expect was my daughter refusing to come on the next scheduled Saturday. My ex texted, saying she didn't want to go, and he wasn't going to force her. He said if I wanted her to come, I needed to fix the situation myself, so I drove to his house. Yes, that was probably a bad idea in hindsight, but I panicked at the thought of her skipping visits. She didn't yell that time. She didn't even look angry. She just looked done. She said, "You only want me there so the boys don't complain. Not because you actually want me." I told her, of course, I want her there, that she's still my daughter. She replied that being my daughter doesn't mean anything if I only notice her when the boys get mad. She said she didn't want to go, but if I was going to make a scene, she'd get in the car just to avoid another argument. So she came. Not because she wanted to, because I pressured her. And honestly, the second she got in my car, I knew I'd made things worse. She sat stiff the entire ride, clutching her backpack like she expected someone to rip it away again. When we got home, the boys immediately asked what snacks she brought. She said she didn't bring any. She held her bag tighter. They didn't believe her. The 9-year-old reached for the zipper jokingly, saying, "Just let me see." She shoved his hand away, but he grabbed her wrist and pulled again. The 7-year-old started laughing and joined in. The 4-year-old thought it was a game and tried to climb into her lap. She yelled at them to stop, but they didn't take her seriously. That's when I stepped in and told them to knock it off and give her space. But the damage was already done from her perspective. I had just allowed the same thing to happen twice. We made it through most of the afternoon without another explosion. But she ordered Uber Eats around 2 p.m., and I could see the boys immediately eye it. They whispered to each other, and one asked me quietly why she still got food, just for herself. That's when I made the mistake of telling her, again, to split it with them. She froze. She didn't yell at first. She just stared at me. Then she said, "I can't do this anymore." And then she walked out and called her dad. Now I'm sitting here with a husband who thinks I handled everything wrong, sons who think they're being treated unfairly, and a daughter who might not step foot in my house again. And I honestly don't know if I overstepped, or if I was just trying to keep the peace in my house, the only way I knew how. I know I caused the original fracture 10 years ago. I know I don't get to act like a full-time parent. But was I wrong to try to avoid having my daughter flaunt expensive food in front of boys who don't understand why life is unequal? Ada? Comments. Comment 1. YTA. You've created a hostile environment for your daughter, where she's treated like an outsider in what's supposed to be her second home. You say you get her every other Saturday and can't even provide a sandwich. Then have the audacity to make her give away the only stuff she's allowed to bring for herself. Of course, she flipped out. She's been holding all that in for years. You didn't just fail to parent her. You outsourced it to your ex while building a whole new family. And now that the kids you did choose to raise are mad, they get less than their half-sister. Instead of owning the imbalance and explaining reality, you threw it on your 15-year-old daughter to fix by sacrificing her comfort and food. And then your sons literally restrained her, and you brushed it off as play. That's some deeply invalidating SHT. I can't even imagine how unsafe she must have felt. You failed to be her mom. She's right, you only notice her when the boys get jealous. At this point, she's not the one disrespecting family. You are. Comment 2. YTA. You cheated on this man, wrecked your marriage, and lost custody. And now a decade later you have the audacity to expect him to feed the kids you had after your affair. Let's not pretend this is just about snacks. You're trying to offload financial pressure onto your ex because you're underwater with your current family. Be honest. Did you ever once consider how weird and uncomfortable it must have been for your daughter to come into a home where she's only half wanted, expected to act like a sibling and not a guest, while also being the reminder of a broken past? Probably not, because your whole approach screams entitlement. Your ex is feeding your kid, clothing her, handling all her needs, and sending her to your place with enough to not burden you. And instead of saying, "Thank you," you try to make him responsible for your other children too. No way. That's not generosity you're asking for, that's exploitation. You're lucky he hasn't taken you back to court yet. Also, those boys physically restraining her for snacks. That's not cute. That's a red flag. You brushed it off because it was playful. If someone did that to your youngest, you'd be flipping tables. And your daughter knows that. That's part of why she snapped. You've made it clear who your priority is, and it isn't her. YTA. And you're dangerously close to being an ex-mom too, if you keep this up. Comment 3. Mixed feelings, but leaning towards YTA. I get where your anxiety's coming from. The income gap is brutal, and kids do notice those differences. But that's the issue you and your husband need to solve. Not her. Not her dad. You can't fix economic resentment in your household by sacrificing your daughter on the altar of equality. And here's the bigger problem. You're expecting a teenage girl to do what you haven't set and enforce healthy boundaries. She's being guilted into feeding your kids, so you can avoid facing the fact that you can't meet their expectations. That's emotional outsourcing. Honestly, your ex was more than fair for years, and you blew it. Once you started forcing her to give up what little independence and comfort she had, you turned visitation into a punishment. You say you're humiliated. Imagine being a 15-year-old girl manhandled by younger half-siblings, and having your mother treat it like sharing time. Of course she snapped. Frankly, I'm amazed she didn't sooner. Update. I've seen the comments. I get it. I screwed up. But people are acting like I'm some kind of monster when I'm just trying to hold my household together. I have 3 boys who need me and a daughter who's made it clear she doesn't consider this place her home anymore. That's hard to sit with. A lot has happened since I posted. First, no, my daughter hasn't come back. She refused the last 2 visits. My ex said she doesn't feel safe here anymore, which is honestly insulting. My sons didn't attack her. They were being kids. Were they wrong to grab her arms and try to take her snacks? Sure. Did they hurt her? No. But now everyone's acting like I let them commit a hate crime. I reached out, and I apologized, maybe not perfectly, but I tried. I asked if we could all meet at a coffee shop to talk it through. She said no. Her dad didn't even bother replying after that. He's made his stance clear. What makes this worse is how my sons have reacted. Especially my 9-year-old. He hasn't been the same since she stopped coming. He asks about her constantly. At first it was, when is she coming back? Then it turned into, is it our fault? And now he just gets quiet and shuts down when Saturdays roll around. The 7-year-old started acting out too, getting angry whenever we mention her name. Last week he screamed, "She hates us," during dinner. They miss her. And yes, they're jealous. Imagine being a little boy, watching your sister show up once a month with bags of snacks and fast food, sitting apart from you, eating something you'll never taste, and never sharing a bite. Then she leaves and gets taken to a steakhouse. Meanwhile, you're scraping peanut butter off the bottom of the jar. I tried explaining it's not her fault. But kids don't think like that. They see the gap. They feel it. And yeah, maybe I handled it wrong, but I was trying to close that gap even just a little. One of the things people mentioned in comments was, why not feed her yourself? That's cute in theory. But I can barely cover the basics for 3 growing boys. We're behind on utilities. Grocery prices are a joke. My husband's check was short last month, and I used my child support payment to buy food for the boys. Yes, the $150 that's meant for my daughter. But what am I supposed to do, let the boys go without because of a technicality? The fact that I'm even in this position while my ex is out there with multiple homes, vacationing in Aspen, and sending our daughter here like she's slumming it for community service makes me sick. He could help more. He chooses not to. That's what makes me angry. His bank account wouldn't even notice if he let her order food for all 4 kids once a month. But instead he draws this ridiculous line, not my kids, not my problem. And now Reddit's parroting it too. What people don't know is how she treats her brothers. She calls them annoying, pushes them away, and rolls her eyes when they talk. She used to bring candy for them when she was younger. Then somewhere along the way, it all turned cold. She stopped sharing anything. One time, the 7-year-old asked if he could have one of her cookies, and she said, "Ask your mom, not mine." Maybe this part was wrong, but I didn't know what else to do. A few days ago, I noticed her Uber Eats account was still logged in on the tablet she used during visits. I did use it to order lunch for the boys one day when we were completely out of groceries. I knew it wasn't right, but I was desperate. I told myself I'd explain later and apologize. She found out somehow, probably a notification on her phone, and now she's accusing me of stealing from her. I mean, technically, yeah, but it was a $22 order. I'm her mother. What pushed things even further was something I didn't expect. She apparently found a bunch of notes the boys had written and stuffed into her backpack during her last visit. I didn't know they did that. One of them said, "Go live with your rich dad." Another said, "You're mean. We hate you." I cried when I saw them. I had no idea they felt that strongly. And when I tried to explain to her that they were just upset and didn't mean it, she told me, "That's your entire parenting style, ignoring things until they explode." I won't lie, that one hurt. Now my husband and I are at odds too. He's not defending me like he used to. He says he's sick of watching this house fall apart. He's been quieter lately. I caught him looking up family therapists online. And when I asked why, he said, "Because none of us are okay right now." I've tried to reach out again. Texts, emails. I even wrote my daughter a handwritten letter, not blaming, just trying to say I want to fix this. I want her back. I want the boys to have a sister. I want us to be a family. But I haven't gotten a reply. People say I'm irrational, petty, and vindictive. That I'm punishing my daughter for my own mistakes. Maybe that's true. But all I've ever wanted is for my kids to be fed, happy, and bonded. I'm just one person, with no resources, trying to make a broken family work. It's not pretty. But I'm not the arsehole people want me to be. I don't know what to do anymore. I can't afford to go to court and fight a man with money and lawyers. I can't keep watching my boys unravel. I can't keep pretending this house is normal when every weekend just makes it worse. I don't know. If anyone out there has advice beyond, "You're the arsehole," I'm listening. Comments. Comment 1. You say you just want your kids to bond. But let's be real, what you want is to erase consequences. You lost custody for a reason. And now you've spent years being the optional parent to your daughter. She didn't grow distant for no reason. She grew aware of how much she had to parent herself emotionally when she was with you. And instead of trying to reconnect with her, you made her a goddamn prop to smooth over tension between the kids you actually raised. You used her food, her space, and her presence as a peace offering for your son's envy. You tried to fix the holes in their lives with her stuff. Then you stole from her stole. Not by accident, not some mix-up, but you used her Uber account to feed your other kids and justified it with, "I'm her mother." No, you're not a mother when it's convenient. You're her mother every time you let her get ganged up on and called names in your house and said nothing. The only one trying to bond was her, until she realized she was bonding with a brick wall. YTA. Comment 2. Your story hit hard, but not for the reason you think. I'm a stepdad too. Married into a situation where kids are split between households. And yes, the money gap is real. But what I've learned is that the second you treat fairness as sameness, you create chaos. You tried to balance the scales by turning a teenager into a vending machine, and it blew up in your face. You think your ex should be ashamed. For what? Protecting his daughter from being physically restrained in a house where she's called names, has her stuff taken, and her mom writes it off as boys being boys. What you should be ashamed of is needing Reddit to tell you that weaponizing your daughter's presence to manage the emotional fallout in your house is not making them bond. It's making her a target. You're right that you're alone in this, but it's because you keep choosing the path that protects your feelings instead of fixing the real problem. Your kids need therapy, you need boundaries, and your daughter deserves peace. Comment 3. Your update made me physically angry. You used her Uber account. You read that sentence back and still tried to defend it with, "It was only $22, and I'm her mom." And what's worse, you framed it as being desperate, as if that somehow justifies crossing every line. Then you find hate notes your sons wrote, and instead of disciplining them or having a come to Jesus moment, you cry and still turn it into how hard this is for you. Ma'am, are you hearing yourself? You're so deep in your victim complex that you've started to believe your daughter is the problem. Newsflash, she didn't make your sons jealous. You did, by making her presence revolve around what she could give instead of who she is. And your husband? He's gone quiet because guilt doesn't disappear when you bury it, it festers. He's watching this whole mess unravel and realizing you're not going to stop until your daughter walks out of your life for good. This wasn't a parenting update. This was a confession. And yeah, YTA. Update. I wasn't planning to post again, but so much has happened since the last update that it feels wrong to leave it open-ended. To the people who think I'm delusional, entitled, or some manipulative arsehole, I get it. You read one post and make your judgment. That's how this works. But I'll say this once. I never meant to hurt my daughter. I just didn't know how badly things had already broken until it was too late. And now, I think I've officially lost her. It started when I tried to send a small birthday package to her dad's house. Nothing dramatic, a hoodie, she once pointed out in a catalog, some stationery, a note apologizing for everything. She didn't open it. Her dad handed it back to the delivery driver with a message attached. "We don't accept guilt gifts. Please stop." Shortly after, her Uber Eats account was locked out on our devices. I thought she changed her password. But then I overheard the boys asking the 9-year-old, "Why doesn't Sissy get food anymore?" And he responded, "Because Dad said she's not allowed to waste money on us." That's when I found out my ex had not only shut down her card access, but he also converted her monthly spending account into a locked trust. According to my ex's lawyer, who, yes, reached out, any money he used to give her for casual spending would now be set aside until she turns 18. She'd have to learn to value what she has instead of having it taken. That was aimed at me. Not even subtle. At the same time, I found out from the boys again that she no longer attends her old school. Apparently, she transferred to a private academy near his side of town. I was never consulted, never told. She just disappeared from the school system I enrolled her in 10 years ago. I've tried reaching out. No response. I called her dad to ask why I wasn't informed about the school change, and he told me, "Your visitation is done. I'm not legally obligated to update you anymore." She asked for distance. I'm honoring that. He's right. I pushed this too far, and now I have nothing left to push with. It doesn't stop there. A week ago, I got a call from CPS. They said it was a standard welfare check following a concern from a school source. Apparently, my 7-year-old told his teacher, during show and tell, that his big sister used to get tied up for chips. He meant it like a joke, I know that. But schools don't mess around with that kind of thing. A caseworker came by. She asked about discipline, supervision, food access, and sibling conflicts. I told her the truth, that it was exaggerated. No one was hurt, and that it was just childish roughhousing. She asked to speak with the boys individually. My 9-year-old tried to explain it was like wrestling, just for snacks, which didn't help my case. Nothing came from the visit, but the embarrassment and stress of it hit me hard. And my husband took it worse, much worse. He's already been blaming himself for how everything spiraled. He said if he had made more money, maybe I wouldn't have felt like I had to reach out to my ex at all. Maybe the boys wouldn't have been so fixated on their sister's snacks. Maybe I wouldn't have cracked under the pressure. Last month, without telling me, he picked up a second job. When I found out, I told him to stop. He looked like a ghost after 2 weeks. But he said, I can't just sit here and watch you fall apart while I do nothing. He wants to prove something to me, to himself. I don't even know anymore. The money helps. We're finally catching up on bills, and the legal fees from my ex's cease and desist threats didn't sink us. But watching my husband come home and collapse into bed at 6 a.m., barely speaking to the boys because he's too tired, is breaking me in ways I can't describe. I told him last night, you're going to work yourself into a heart attack. And he just said, better than watching my wife be hated by her own kid. I didn't respond. What could I say? As for the boys, they're still talking about her. Still drawing pictures of Sissy, still asking when she's coming back. But their tones changed. My 7-year-old now calls her the rich girl. Not Sissy. Not my sister. Just the rich girl who forgot us. That's on me too. I know I've made comments around them. Frustrated comments. I've said things like, well, she doesn't care about us anymore, or she has what she needs, right? Daddy's wallet fixes everything. And now I hear my own words coming back out of my kids' mouths. Yesterday, the 9-year-old asked if his sister even liked them at all, or if she just came to laugh at our food. I didn't know what to say, because I don't think she hated them. I think she just hated being treated like a guest in a place that was supposed to be her home, and I didn't see it until it was too late. To top it all off, my ex threw one more dagger. He called and told me our daughter has started seeing someone. A 17-year-old boy from her new school. I said, okay, why are you telling me this? His response was brutal. He took a long pause before saying, because she told him everything, and she said she's finally with someone who makes her feel safe. Someone who doesn't make her feel like she owes love in exchange for food or attention. And then he added, almost casually, that he figured I'd want to know who the guy was. That's the last thing I heard before he hung up. So yeah, I've lost her. But here's the truth. I still have 3 kids who need me. I don't have the money or the strength to keep throwing myself at a wall that's already closed me out. If my daughter can't see that I was trying to make things work, trying to keep her and her brothers connected, then maybe she never wanted to be part of this family in the first place. I'm tired of apologizing for trying. I'm thankful my ex didn't destroy us financially. He could have gone for back child support and legal costs. He didn't. And maybe that's the last mercy I get from him. I don't expect my daughter to forgive me. I don't think she will. But I'm done chasing someone who only sees me as the cheater. I still have a home to hold together and 3 boys who, for better or worse, see me as their anchor. If that makes me the arsehole, then so be it. Comments. Comment 1. The saddest part here isn't your daughter cutting you off. It's how you're still calling her the problem. I believe you care. I also believe you resent the hell out of her. You resented that she had things your sons didn't, that she reminded you of a man you betrayed, and that she didn't turn out broken like you expected. And instead of sitting with that discomfort and working through it, you made it her job to make your house feel okay. You didn't ask her to visit, you expected her to perform forgiveness. Smile, be grateful, and now apparently feed the kids too. Then when she walked away, you spun this whole story about how it's not worth it anymore. You want peace, you want dignity. Start by being honest. You hurt her, you didn't fix it, and now she's doing the healing without you. Comment 2. You did lose your daughter. But let's be clear, you didn't just try and fail. You tried to control her through guilt and food, and it blew up in your face. You say she was the rich girl who forgot us. No, she remembered. She remembered every visit where she was treated like a visiting ambassador instead of a daughter. Where your boys swarmed her like she was a vending machine, and you called it bonding. She remembered the time you stood there and let your 9-year-old pull her food out of her bag while you rationalized it as just boys playing. Then when she sets a boundary, you punish her emotionally and start talking about how she must not want family. Of course she doesn't. This isn't a family to her, it's a guilt trip in a house where she gets no voice, no autonomy, and now apparently no rights to her own money. You didn't just lose her. You taught her how to walk away from a mother who would rather protect her pride than her daughter's peace. Comment 3. Your husband is working 2 jobs to keep your head above water, and you're still more pissed at your ex than you are at yourself. That tells me everything. You didn't just mess up, you doubled down, blamed everyone else, and now you're hiding behind your sons while spinning the narrative that you're just fighting alone. No, you're fighting against the consequences you caused. Your daughter's not punishing you. She's reacting to years of neglect, boundary crossing, and emotional weaponizing. And the moment she chose self-preservation over forced loyalty, you wrote her off as selfish. Your ex might be a hard arse, but from the sound of it, he's the only adult in this entire situation who's actually protected her. You should be thanking him for giving her a safe out when your home became hostile. YTA. And you're still not ready to admit it. Second story. My sister slapped me and accused me of cheating with her creepy husband. I'm a lesbian and have a fiancé. She refuses to listen and is harassing me, and my parents want me to apologize, believing my sister. Now the truth has come out about her creepy husband, and my sister wants me to move on like nothing happened. I 35F and my sister 39F have never been very close. You know those siblings that are so unlike you wonder how they could ever be related? That's us. We don't have any of the same interests. There is, quite literally, not a single book, song, movie, or TV show that we have in common. Even the foods we like are completely different. We've tried to be closer before, multiple times actually, but it never worked out. We had a great conversation a few years ago about how, even though we don't have anything in common and never will, there's still a lot of love there. We don't need to fake it or try out things we know will make us miserable to love each other. For the past few years, we've only seen each other on holidays and birthdays. Outside of that, we don't really speak to each other outside of the occasional like or comment on a social media post. We're both comfortable doing our own things and not trying to force a relationship. The conversations we do have are usually checking in to see how each other is doing, if there's anything we need to vent about or need help with, and talking about our parents. Around the time of the C-19 lockdowns, she started dating a guy. We'll call him Darren. He was her first big love in high school. They broke up because, the first time he ever got drunk, he made out with someone he knew my sister had a lot of drama with. They've both dated other people since then, but we all knew they missed each other. I don't know the full details of their rekindling, but they managed to work through their issues enough to start dating again. Darren and I aren't super close or anything. He's what I like to call a friend-in-law, or a good friend of one of my closest friends. I see him maybe 3-4 times a year when our friend groups overlap for game or movie nights. Before they started their relationship back up, he'd ask about her every time he saw me. I had really hoped they could work it out because both of them wanted it to, but wouldn't say it to the other person. My sister knew about the game nights before they started dating again, and always asked if he said anything about her. It was always the same conversation. He asked how you were doing. He asked if you had forgiven him. He got a little drunk and said you were the love of his life, and he messed up. Stuff like that. She'd say the same things about him when she drank a little. I tried telling them both to reach out over the years. I guess one of them eventually did. Now, the allegations of cheating. About 4 months ago, Darren and I were helping a friend unpack after some of our other friends helped move all her stuff to her new house. It was just him and me there, as that friend went to grab some takeout for us and to pick up a few things she needed from the store. We weren't in the same rooms. We didn't even really talk to each other outside of asking where we thought something should go. My sister called him to ask what he was doing. He told her he was unpacking stuff, and that I was there too. She said she'd be on her way to help us out, because she didn't realize we'd both be there. She called me shortly after and said she was coming over, and I said, "Cool, we could use the help," before we both said bye and hung up. When she got there, she asked why neither of us told her we were both here. I said I assumed he had told her since we don't really talk. She asked him, and he said, "I didn't know it was going to be just us. I told you I came here to help unpack." She asked, "Why are you dressed like that?" "Like what?" I had on basketball shorts and a tank top. Like you just got done screwing. I had no idea what she meant. She started asking if we had slept together. I laughed ridiculously loud at that and thought she was joking. She slapped me and started crying because she knew he'd do that to her again. She told me I was mocking her emotions and was a horrible sister. The reason I was laughing is because I'm a lesbian. I came out as a lesbian when I was 14. There has never been a man on this earth I have found attractive or wanted to do anything like that with. She knows this. She was the first person I came out to. She helped me come out to our parents. She's met my fiancé. I told them I was leaving and called the friend and told her what happened. She started laughing at the accusations and asked if I was going to press charges on my sister. I told her no. I've slapped her a few times over the years when we were teenagers, so really, it didn't matter. It wasn't that hard of a slap either. It was more annoying than dramatic. I figured they had some problems going on that I didn't know about, and that I was unfortunately in the crosshairs when she napped. I assumed she'd come to her senses, apologize, and tell me what was really going on. But no, that's not what happened. She made a Facebook post the next day about how some lesbians will lie about their sexualities to manipulate people. Someone asked if she was talking about me. She said nothing but liked their posts. I was so confused by that. I've never lied about my sexuality. Even when I was a kid, I was open about the little crushes I had on girls. When I came out, everyone was like, "Duh, we've known since you were a kid," and "Did you think we didn't know? I'm also a butch. I look like what Lee Delaria and Katie Lang would have if they had a baby." Most people see me and know that I'm a lesbian. She then made another post about how I can't be a lesbian because my fiancé is bisexual, which makes no sense whatsoever. My fiancé's sexuality doesn't determine mine. She said something like, if I were a true lesbian, I wouldn't even want to be with someone who has had giggity time with a man. It was bizarre. A few people asked me what was going on. I didn't tell them anything other than, I don't know. She's accusing me of something I didn't do, and I don't know why. Just leave it alone. She'll get over whatever this is. They messaged back more questions, but I didn't respond. I didn't want there to be any further issues. It's been almost 4 months now, and she's still accusing me of sleeping with him. Our parents told her that I didn't. We all know I'm a lesbian, and she said, no, she's lying about that as an excuse. She's always liked him. Always like him. No lol. Absolutely not. I liked him enough in a friendly way to not be miserable at his presence, but that's about it. There has never been a crush or any sort of romantic or giggity feelings towards him because, I'm a big ol' lesbian. Every few days since then, she's texted me something about how I ruined her life, betrayed her, etc., etc. At first, I tried talking to her rationally about it, but she said that made me sound more guilty. Eventually, I stopped responding or caring. I'd let her text whatever she wanted and not even open it. Last week, she called around 2 a.m. and I answered because I thought it was an emergency. She told me she hasn't been able to sleep in months because she's so distraught over me ruining her life and relationship. I was tired, cranky, and annoyed and told her. I just got done insert overly detailed explanation of what I did during giggity time with my fiancé, and hung up. She called a few more times after that, so I blocked her number. I also blocked Darren's number and social media in case she tried to reach me on there. I didn't know if they were still together or not. Their relationship statuses have been hidden even before this mess, but I didn't want to risk it if they still were. I kept her social media unblocked in case of an emergency, or if she wanted to apologize. The next day, I woke up to over 100 messages on social media and decided to block her. Our parents called and asked what happened. I told them she called me at 2 a.m., left over 100 messages, and has been being extremely annoying about this for months now. They said, "Your sisters, just apologize." I asked them what I should apologize for. They said, she wouldn't be this angry if it wasn't true. Again, they know that I'm a lesbian. They have known this for 21 years now. I don't understand how they're now thinking I had giggity time with him. Other people in our family have been reaching out. Some called me a homewrecker, a paid worker of the giggity variety, but most wanted to know what was happening, and if I was secretly bi, or if I was coming out as straight. She called and texted me from someone else's phone. I assume it was a friend, but maybe she got a cheap prepaid phone or something. Not sure. I told her that I was going no contact with her because of all of this. She started crying and said, "You betrayed me? Now you're going to abandon me?" I told her I didn't betray her because, big ol' lesbian. She kept insisting I was lying. I hung up, blocked the number, and made a post about how I would appreciate it if everyone would please not let her call me from their devices or speak to her about me. as I've officially gone no contact. The post had comments ranging from, "Good, it's about time," to, "You can't go no contact with your sister. That's your sister. Family is more important than this," to, "You're the reason no one likes your LGBTQ plus community. My parents, and most of the rest of my family, are acting like I'm just so evil for not wanting to speak to her again." Some of my friends have even said that, while they know the cheating didn't happen, they thought me blocking her and going no contact was taking things too far. I feel like, no, I know that I'm not but really just need reassurance that I'm not from strangers on the internet, because really, who can you trust more than that lol? Edit. I need to clarify that they call each other husband and wife, even though they're not legally married. She's very into the whole new age thing. They did a spiritual commitment ceremony last year where they pledged their love to one another. They switch between calling each other husband-wife, boyfriend/girlfriend, partners/life partners, and soul flames. I still view it as them dating because they can't even decide on what they are at any given moment. Edit. I asked this in the comments, but decided to put it here too in case that gets lost. Serious question: if I decide to go through with it, how do I go about pressing charges? Do I show up to the police station with all of the texts and messages, or should I seek out a lawyer first? How do I even find a good lawyer for this type of situation? What would be a reasonable amount of upfront cost for the case? I've never had to report or lawyer up for anything before and don't trust asking my family for answers. Comments. Comment 1. Well, she sure has that stuck in her head. Sometimes to avoid drama, you have to head things off. I think making a big social media post where she can see it, and so can the flying monkeys, along the lines of, "I do not know if my sister is having a mental health issue, or has a brain tumor, or what is going on. Here is the deal. She accused me of sleeping with her husband. I am a lesbian. I have never wanted to have sex with any man. I never wanted to sleep with Darren, and if I had wanted to, there were years when they weren't dating where I could have. I'm being asked to apologize for something I didn't do, never did. I am not going to apologize to her for sleeping with her husband and ruining her life, when I never did it, and B, it looks like she ruined her own. Now she's screaming at me for abandoning her after cutting her off for screaming at me and sending hundreds of deranged messages about me going giggity with her man. Except now I'm abandoning her. Please, someone closer to her. Get an MRI and some therapy because I can't handle this anymore. And no, I will not apologize for cutting my sister off for being delusional and making me the bad guy. And the people calling me a homewrecker are insane." Comment 2. I would go as far as getting a restraining order for harassment. And tell your parents you're going to take her to court for defamation to prove a point. They need to understand how serious you are, and that all of these lies and harassment are not only ruining your relationships, but also your peace and well-being. Tell your parents if they choose to discuss this or bring it up again. Then you will go no contact with them as well. Tell them at this point they owe you an apology. And if they can't deliver, they are condoning her actions, and you don't need this in your life. Your sister has a lot of issues and needs therapy. Update. TLDR. My sister has spent the past 5 months accusing me of sleeping with her boyfriend for some bizarre reason, even though I have been very open about being a butch lesbian for over 20 years. It got to the point where she was harassing me, sending over 100 messages in one night. I decided to go no contact and blocked her as much as I possibly could. A few days after the first post, I went to the police about this situation in the middle of my sister sending dozens of texts per hour. While there, they saw her send back-to-back messages with threats claiming she would pay people to beat me up and harm my pets. The report was filed, and I contacted a lawyer. Her husband, they're not legally married. They had a spiritual commitment ceremony, had a mutual friend ask if I would meet up and talk to him. I told them to tell them no. My parents offered to record what he had to say if he would tell them, because they've been incredibly stressed about this whole situation. He agreed to that. My parents came over the next day and played the entire conversation. Darren said that, about 7 months ago, they were having a conversation about their hall passes. If you don't know, it's a whole thing where people will pick a celebrity they'd want to have giggity time with. And the whole idea is that, if you ever had a chance with that person, your partner would be okay with you and them doing the giggity. He said she asked who his hall pass would be if it wasn't a celebrity, like a friend or coworker. He didn't have an answer, but she picked one of his close friends. She kept asking him for an answer, which he apparently didn't have. He ended up picking me because then he knew he wouldn't have to do anything. My sister allegedly snapped and accused him of liking me. He said he didn't, and that he had picked the person who would be least likely to do anything with him because he was uncomfortable with the question. He flipped it back on her and asked why she answered his friend so quickly if she hadn't thought about it before. She accused him of gaslighting and being gay because only a gay man would find me attractive. If you need to know what I look like, think of a mixture of Katie Lang and Lee Delaria. Short hair, bigger body, short hair, masculine dressing, etc. He said he wasn't attracted to me at all, and that's why he picked me. She didn't believe him and kept going on and on about how he was using her to get to me. Wild considering there's nothing any man could do to get me lol. She stopped talking about it the day after. He thought that she was over it, and that she was either joking but pretended to be serious, or that she realized she was an idiot and dropped it. Our parents confronted her about it, and she said that he was lying. She says that they were having the hall pass conversation, but he said her instead of a celebrity, which is apparently an answer she would have been okay with, but that he went too far with it, and that's what made her mad. Her claim is that, after the part he stopped talking to our parents about, he made comments about how it would be kinda hot to have sex with a lesbian, be the first man inside of her, and turn her straight. She only mentioned his friend after he broke the hall pass rules of only picking celebrities. I didn't know who was being honest, but what she claims he said about me made me extremely uncomfortable for obvious reasons. I talked to the mutual friend I helped move, and she said she wasn't okay with Darren saying that, and said she'd talk to other friends about it too. Everyone pretty much agreed not to invite Darren to anything I was going to, and that they would distance themselves from them until they found out the truth. One of our mutual friends, a guy, texted him about it to try to get an answer. He said he wouldn't tell anyone about it if he was honest. It took a while, but he eventually admitted that he has a fantasy of breaking me and then training me to be a good woman. I won't go into details about it, but it involved the non-agreed-upon giggity and basically being traumatized into being a proper woman. At that point, I had already blocked my sister on everything and wasn't going to reach out to her directly, so I sent the screenshots to our parents. They were disgusted by it and sent them to my sister. She asked me to come to our parents' house ASAP. I was at work during all of this, but I went over there that night. She apologized to me and said that she thought we were doing stuff because she found pictures of me on his phone, and she knows that I hate getting my picture taken. I asked what pictures. It was pictures of me at parties and game nights, and one of me in a giddy position that was clearly AI, though she didn't seem to notice that part of it. I told her I never knew he was taking pictures of me, and that I was extremely freaked out by that. WTF, dude? Darren has been completely cut off by everyone in our friend group. My sister went through his phone when he was sleeping and deleted everything of me on his phone and in the cloud. She's in the process of filing for a divorce in their spiritual religious community. It's a whole process I don't know much about because it all seems kind of culty and weird. They have to get religious leaders and a lawyer involved to agree to separate their souls. She keeps referring to it as a divorce. So that's what I'm referring to it as, because I don't know what else to call it other than a breakup. But she swears it's more than a breakup because of how important the connecting of their souls was. Darren tried to tell people that my sister was lying about everything, but the pictures are all the proof that I need that he's a creep. There were pictures that no one else could have taken because it was only a handful of us there that night, and everyone else was in the background. There were game nights where he was the only other person at both. I'm extremely grossed out by him and don't really know what to do now. I talked to the police about it, and their whole thing was that there's no proof he was only taking pictures of me because there were some other ones he took at those parties, but most of them were of me. I think he took some other ones to make himself seem not as creepy. He even tried to tell my sister that he took them because he knew that I hated having my picture taken and thought she'd like to see me in them. Except he never showed her those pictures, so what sense does that even make? I shifted from no contact to very low contact with my sister, because really, I spent almost half a year dealing with her doing all of this to me, and a simple apology isn't going to magically make things okay. Even if something had happened, which it obviously didn't, her behaviors were still completely unacceptable. The fact that she even thought I'd do that is insane, and I don't want to speak to someone who threatened to end the lives of my pets and said that she'd pay to have people beat me up. This whole situation has been insane, and I'm extremely grossed out and don't know what to do from here. I'm already in therapy and plan to talk to my therapist about it more, because all I want to do now is go to work and come home. I've been isolating myself from everyone because I'm so afraid of Darren showing up and being creepy. Knowing that someone you spent time with, and were alone with, wanted to hurt you in that way is a special kind of anxious hell. Comments. Comment 1. NTA. Your sister compromised your safety, and your fiancé's safety. Your sister insulted you and your fiancé. She needs to make amends with both of you. Your sister threatened your life and your pets. Not her husband. No influence from a third party is justification for the harm she caused. If your sister's twin flame is a degenerate, she should probably get real therapy, not through her church, to understand why she would intertwine with something like that. No reason to re-engage with her if she's not willing to do the work. Staying no contact with your sister is very reasonable. If your parents haven't apologized in a meaningful way to both you and your fiancé, it's very reasonable to cool your relationship with them, as they've given signs that they are not supporters of your safety or your relationship. Even with an apology, proceed with caution. Your parents trying to put you in harm's way tells you who their priority is. Regarding your former bill cameras around the house, dash cams in the car. At least have the police give him a cease and desist no trespass warning, so you can get a restraining order if he disregards the warning. The cameras will help evidence his actions. If your sister or parents give him an inch of grace, they may as well have been doing this to you, not him. Comment 2. This is so bizarre. But I have to admit, I'm a little confused. You said your sister only had a spiritual commitment ceremony with this guy. But now she has to file for divorce. Also, I think you're forgiving your sister a little too easily, considering she was harassing you and threatening you. That is not stuff her boyfriend did. The whole police report part just seems to have gotten dropped. Are you sure this is a true story? It just has some inconsistencies that are making me wonder, unfortunately. If it did really happen, well then, I'm glad you got rid of this guy, and I wish you the best as you move forward. OP. It's a divorce in their religion spiritual thing. Ike much about it TBH because it's some weird new age thing that seems kinda culty TBH, but she's treating it like an actual divorce. They have to speak to people in their group about it, including community leaders and some sort of spiritual lawyers, to not only okay it, but to separate their souls. Again, it's some weird SHT I don't know much about. I just used the term she used to make it easier. She briefly mentioned around the time she first joined that a few members are former Twin Flames members. If that helps put into perspective why I think it's a cult. As she's become more involved in it, she speaks about it less in definitive terms, such as talking about what they're doing, and is more careful to call everything a spiritual practice that we couldn't possibly understand, because we're not aligned with some higher being that's more powerful than the God we all know. She's at a point where she thinks sleeping with crystals in her bed will save her from a plethora of diseases, and follows an extremely strict diet, where some vegetables have feelings and can't be eaten, while others feel no pain, and are here to be sacrificed for human consumption. Yeah, weird culty SHT. Thank you for watching the video. If you are interested in listening to these kinds of stories, we've got more in store for you. Simply subscribe to our channel, hit the like button, and share it with your friends.